Guys, I shit you not. I just uploaded my Mike Nesmith video about his TV shows and I literally heard thunder. Every time I film about that man, I hear thunder. I think he really is a ghost and he's controlling the weather. I swear I heard it, bro. I swear I heard it. Stop scaring my dog, Michael, please! Do you hear that? Why, Michael? Why? I didn't roast anyone. You scared my dog. Henry, it's okay, bro. It's okay. Maybe my Scooby. My Scooby. Oh, he ran away.
The velvet cloak of night shrouds the London airport. All is quiet, all is serene. But this is the lull before the storm. Thousands of Beatles fans are bedded down for the night to await the arrival of their heroes.
Beatlemania was the fanaticism surrounding the English rock band The Beatles in the 1960s. The group's popularity grew in the UK throughout 1963, propelled by the singles Please Please Me, From Me to You, and She Loves You. By October, the press adopted the term Beatlemania to describe the scenes of adulation that attended the band's concert performances. From the start of 1964, the world tours were characterized by the same levels of hysteria and high-pitched screaming by female fans, both at concerts and during the group's travels. Beatlemania surpassed any previous example of fan worship in its intensity and scope. Initially, the fans were predominantly young adolescent females, sometimes called teeny boppers, and their behavior was scorned by many commentators. By 1965, their fan base included listeners who traditionally shunned youth-driven pop culture, which helped bridge divisions between folk and rock enthusiasts. During the 1960s, Beatlemania was the subject of analysis by psychologists and sociologists. Then a 1997 study recognized the phenomenon as an early demonstration of the proto-feminist girl power. The receptions of subsequent pop acts, particularly boy bands, have drawn comparisons to Beatlemania, although none have replicated the breadth and depth of the Beatles fandom nor its cultural impact. I know what you're thinking right off the bat. Amy, what was up with that weird intro? And what's Henry doing here? You ignore Henry, right? This is not about him. It's about me. That's with the Beatles. The only reason why I did that weird intro is because we're talking about the Beatles today. And no, it's not because Paul McCartney's birthday is tomorrow, or if you're watching this the next day, is today. You and I both know damn well I'm only doing this because it's his birthday and I got nothing else to do. You sneaky dog. Anyways, America wasn't the only thing the Beatles invaded. The Beatles also invaded Broadway, and today we're going to talk about their musical, Beatlemania. One of my friends, who just like me for real, said I was developing season 1 Mickey Dolenz hair. Oh my god. Anyways, no camera, not now, no tilting. So the basic premise for this musical is, it took the form of a roughly chronological history of the Beatles via their music. A total of 29 songs were performed during the show, which I will list later. Other than some unscripted onstage banter, there was very little dialogue during the production, which consisted mostly of exact reenactments of the Beatles' music. The groundbreaking multimedia production was notable for its extensive use of backdrops, projected images on multiple screens, film, newspaper headlines, and video footage to evoke the 1960s and iconic Beatle moments. This sounds like a boring-ass musical. I mean, it's not really a musical, because there's no talking. Musicals must consist of at least some talking, bro. It's not what it is, heck, man. Originally conceived and produced by Stephen Leber and David Krebs, Beatlemania debuted in Boston at the Colonial Theater in April 1977. It premiered on Broadway at the Winter Garden Theater on May 31st, 1977. I've been to the Winter Garden Theater. It was to see a really weird green dude and his goth niece or best friend, depending on if you watch the cartoon. I'll stop. The cast members were Joe Pecorino, Mitch Westman. Okay, so Joe Pecorino played John, Mitch Westman played Paul, Les Frankton played George, and Justin McNeil played Ringo, along with an alternate cast of Randy Clark as John, Reed Kaling as Paul, P.M. Howard as George, and Bobby Taylor as Ringo. Quickly achieving sellout status without ever having an official opening night, Beatlemania saw great success and coverage in Time, People, US, Newsweek, and even Rolling Stone. For the first 6 months, every ticket for the show was sold out. Man, I guess people just had nothing to do back then besides smoke weed. The production was nominated for the 1978 Tony Award for Best Lighting Design by designer Jules Fisher. Sound design by Abe Jacob. Alright, bro. The Broadway show ran until October 17, 1979 for a total of 1,006 performances, grossing more than $40 million. During its New York run, the show moved to the Lunt-Font Theater and finally the Palace Theater. I think, if I remember correctly. Yeah, I saw SpongeBob at the Palace Theater, but I don't think I've ever been to the Lunt-Font Theater. Sorry, I have a wall of playbills, so that really hits the nail in the coffin of where I've been. So, whatever. Anyways, as the show expanded, over 50 cast members formed 10 bunks, or casts of a single set of 4. As the New York show continued its run, shows were opened to Los Angeles, Chicago, Cincinnati, and London. At its peak, Beatlemania had limited engagements in many more cities in the US and abroad. After closing on Broadway, the Beatlemania bus and truck tour began, running until 1983 and touring across the United States and worldwide. Short-term tours of Australia, Europe, and Asia and Africa were produced after 1982. A 1986 decision in a lawsuit by the Beatles production company Apple Corps officially ended the show for a period of time, but subsequent revival tours were still produced under such titles as Beatlemania Yesterday and Today and Beatlemania Now. We'll talk about the lawsuit later, but that's a bit, I mean, you need permission for these kinds of things. That's like if I made a monkey biopic, I'd have to ask Mickey, hey Mickey, can I make a monkey biopic that isn't ass cheeks, bro? Alright, thanks. And he'd be like, oh yeah, sure. I wouldn't mind, unless you make if you do a biopic about Mr. Webster and make me play Mr. Webster, and I'd be like, oh yeah, sure, Mickey, no problem. I'll let you play Mr. Webster, and in fact, you know what, Mickey, it'll be fine, bro. It's dark outside. Alright, Beatlemania album and movie. So we got. In 1978, Beatlemania released a self-titled original cast album of the show, which included contributions from the first and second cast of performers from the show, as well as 5 additional offstage musicians: keyboards, violin, cello, sax, flute, recorder, trumpet, piccolo, trumpet. Stop it! Oboe! I don't even know what that is! Released on Artista Records in 1978, the album received warm audience reaction, even placing on the Billboard 200 for several weeks. Man, Billboard 200, I don't know what's going on with them. Before falling into obscurity, that's what they get. Tracks from the album included most but not all of the original show's song list, and several of the tracks were either re-recorded entirely or partially re-recorded in the studio. Original cast members that appear on the album include Mitch, Joe, Les, and Justin, but also Randy, Reed, PM, and Bobby. Now, the movie. There was a movie, apparently? We're going to get into that. After 3 years, Production USA Video Productions took an interest in making a film version of the Beatlemania stage show. A brief contract negotiation, Beatlemania the movie began production in late 1980, shortly before the murder of John Lennon. Directed by Joseph Manduke, the film's cast featured Mitch, but Dave Leon, Tom Teely, and Ralph Castrell. Mitch Weissman played Paul, I think, in the Broadway version. Whatever. The Beatlemania movie was released in the summer of 1981. Dark days for Beatle fans. Ringo's Caveman movie came out. John Lennon got shot. And this. And received negative reviews. I told you, bro. I told you. Janet Maslin of the New York Times said, Beatlemania was a horror on the stage, and it's even more of a horror at close range, where the seams really show. This isn't a loving impersonation or even an honest one. It's cheap, disingenuous, and loathsome. Jonathan Rosenbaum of the Chicago Reader wrote, "My idea of hell is being forced at gunpoint to re-see this atrocity, based on a terrible stage musical. Other observers criticized the film for being too artsy and not worthy of being associated with the stage show. Plans for a follow-up film were immediately canceled after that, and thank God for that. Now we're gonna get into the juicy stuff, the lawsuit." So, in 1979, Apple Corp sued show creator Steve Leber and Beatlemania's producer, alleging that Apple Corp owned various publicity rights and trademarks, and Leber and others appropriated to themselves the value of those trademarks and the Beatles' goodwill and fame without paying for it. In 1986, LA Superior Court Judge Paul Breckenridge found in favor of Apple Corp. And ordered Leber and Beatlemania Inc. to pay Apple $5.6 million plus 7% interest from September 1979. He also found that Apple was entitled to a court order barring the further unconsented use or exploitation of the Beatles, and that Beatlemania's actions amounted to virtually a complete appropriation of the Beatles' persona without their consent. The judge also found that Eli Lando, and this is the week that was Beatlemania's company, which produced the Beatlemania film, were liable $2 million and 7% interest, also payable to Apple Corp. Man, it is literally not even that easy to get Beatle music in a movie. You may have noticed that if you watch Elliot Roberts' video about when he watched all the Beatle biopic movies, and also when he talked about Across the Universe, which is, it's kind of like American Idiot, but like obviously it's not like American Idiot because American Idiot was on Broadway and Across the Universe was a movie, but like, it's just really hard to get the songs. They cost like a shit ton of money. Speaking of songs, I'm going to read all the music that was in the musical now. Okay, I'm gonna do this all in one breath. Let me just count for a minute. If we combine Act 1 and Act 2 together, it's 28 songs, so let's read off the Act 1 songs. All in one breath, baby. Here we go. I want to hold your hand. She loves you. Help. If I fail, can't buy me love. Day tripper yesterday. Eleanor Rigby. We can work it out. Nowhere man. A day in the life. I took a breath. Whatever. A day in the life. Pennyland. Tripper Fields Forever. Magical Mystery Tour. And Lucy in the Sky with Diamonds. Act 2 consists of Lady Madonna, The Fool on the Hill, Got to Get You Into My Life, Michelle, Get Back, Comes Together, With Love for My Friends, All I Need Is Love, Revolution, Helter Skelter, Hey Jude, I Am the Walrus, Long and the Winding Road, Let It Be. That was all in one breath. Oh God. That was the video. Don't know what you expected, really. If you're watching this tomorrow, which is technically today for you, but if you're watching this, the next day, I'm gonna wish Paul McCartney a happy birthday. That man probably gonna get double the gifts because he's a father and a grandfather, so that's double the gifts. It's a W right there. I'll see you all later in my Pearl Jam video, where I look at the top 10 best Pearl Jam songs of all time. Unfortunately, I didn't make this list, because if I did, Jeremy would be up there, but hey, that's just me, bro.